Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Local Legends podcast. Thanks so much for being here at the Manette Saloon. Hello. I'm your host, Josh Farley. I am graciously doing this on behalf of the Smokestack. You can watch all of our podcasts at kitsapsmokestack.org. And tonight we have nothing less, as I always say, nothing less than a local legend here with Miranda Pinero, everybody. Yes, round of applause. She is amazing. I think the best way to start an interview with Miranda is to do it like this. Take yourself back to January, February, March 2020, and here we are. We're going into a pandemic. What did we all do? We all went and hid and huddled in our houses. Miranda, you did not do that. Miranda opened a coffee shop, and not only did she open a coffee shop, but she opened a vibrant community space that today so many of us come into and enjoy, not just the Java, but the conversation. We've heard even people have brought their babies there for sleep at times. It's a great, wonderful community locale, and we're very lucky to have you in our community. So welcome, Miranda.
Thanks, Josh.
And so I would like to just kind of dive into that. Let's go for that first. What on earth compelled you to open a coffee shop during a global pandemic? Let's start there.
So it's not something I would recommend, opening a business during a pandemic. It had always been the goal to open a coffee shop in Bremerton, and so my lease for Corvo, closer. My lease for Corvo started March 1st, 2020, and then Washington State closed down March 13th, 2020. I was already all in. I had everything invested in Corvo, emotionally and financially, and I had nothing to do but go forward. Why not? I think Bremerton needed it, and I needed it more. So
well, we certainly did, and we're very lucky to have you. So, but there's a great life story to how you got here. So I want to kind of let's do chronology. Let's go back in time and start there. So you came to Seattle, if I'm not mistaken, in 1991.
Moved to Seattle in 1991. I was, I think, 6 months pregnant. And my boyfriend at the time and I decided we needed a change, and Seattle seemed really cool. So as one does in their 20s, we just decided to move cross-country, 6 months pregnant, and start somewhere new. So we did. Yeah.
That's awesome. I know I had a conversation with Bill Mann about this very topic, that Bremerton is not unlike Seattle in the way that there are a lot of transplants here. There's a lot of people that just come here. They say, you know what, I'm uprooting. I'm going to come to Seattle. It appears to have kind of a magnetism around that. So you, though, of course, took it a step further and came to Bremerton. I'd love to hear about the journey from Seattle to the Bremerton discovery, as we all sort of, there are, of course, people who were born here and raised here and stayed here, but many of us did come to find it as a place that was not our home originally. So how did that happen for you?
So I lived in Seattle for 25 plus years through a couple husbands and lots of houses and different rentals and lots of jobs. And in 2016, my husband at the time and I decided, we sold a house and wanted to get something. We wanted a little bit of property. We wanted it a little quieter. So we actually moved to Port Orchard, sort of the southern tip of Port Orchard, almost Gig Harbor, in 2016. Got a couple acres, got chickens, had room for the dogs to run. And then in 2019 is when I started planning for Corvo. And I actually looked at Manchester, looked at Port Orchard, looked at Bremerton, and I just fell in love with the vibe of Bremerton and also the support for small business in Bremerton. So Bremerton is where I opted to open Corvo.
Interesting. What was it you think, if there was a singular factor? I hear you say the vibe, but I want a little more than that. What was it about Bremerton?
Bremerton is weird as fuck. but in a really good way. Weird in a really good way. It is delightful here. Between the arts and the music and just the go-getterism of small business. There are a lot of women-owned businesses. I know we've talked about this. And in fact, the city, while a giant pain in the ass, they are also super supportive of small business compared to other locales, other municipalities. And also, frankly, property owners are more open to small businesses here than in anywhere else we looked. So Bremerton was it. Bremerton was it for me. I love Bremerton proper, but I really love Callow, which is where Cafe Corvo is. For those of you who haven't been to Callow, come to Callow Avenue. We're over in West Bremerton. We're not as swanky as you guys are over here in Manette. But it's a little dirty and weird over there. You might get mugged. But we also have really good coffee and really good music and really good restaurants. I just fell in love with Callow, and specifically this spot that I chose for Corvo is super cool.
Well, I got a grenade of questions for I'm going to launch a bunch of here.
Okay,
so
go. Hit me.
Let's dissect this a little bit. So tell me about, first, coffee. Why a coffee house? We've already talked about the timing of that. However unfortunate it may be, clearly you were going to be successful if you could do what you did during a pandemic. But why a coffee house?
I'm a coffee lover. From the time I was raised on Cuban coffee. My family's Cuban. And then as a teenager, that was my drug of choice. Coffee and cigarettes, frankly, in the 80s and 90s is the drugs we all took. So a lifetime coffee drinker, lifetime coffee house goer, coffee shop lover. It was always the goal. My goal used to be coffee shop / used bookstore, but I sort of fell away from the bookstore part, and it became coffee shop, strictly coffee shop. And I knew from a lifetime of being in and out of the food and beverage industry that the vibe of a place is almost as important as what you serve there. So I wanted the vibe to be impeccable, even if it's dirty and weird and sometimes surly and sometimes ridiculous. It's got to be an impeccable vibe. So I felt like I could maybe do that.
That's great. I love that as a local independent coffee shop, it's a very accepting and welcoming vibe as well. And I've noticed from the tattoos on both of your hands, you have let on one hand and you have go on the other. And I just wanted to point that out. Tell me about that. I personally view let go as a way of, in our partnerships, whether it's our marriage, whether it's our business partners, whoever, let it go is a great way of saying, you've got to just be willing to not hold grudges. But and that's love, right? When we love somebody, let it go. Exactly. Yeah. To quote a Disney movie. But Miranda, what is let go for you? What does that mean for you?
I was for a long time and still am a half-ass practicing Western Buddhist. So it's based vaguely in the concept of clinging is what hurts you. Clinging to needing things is what can harm you, or you harm yourself with it. And also, for a lot of my life, I was a grudge holder. And it's a reminder to let go of grudges and resentment and just heavy-duty expectations. And things are going to go the way they're going to go, and sometimes you have to let that happen. And being upset about it doesn't help.
Amen. Amen to that. Let's talk about Charleston and Callow Avenue. Obviously, goes back a long ways, deep roots in Bremerton history to Charleston. But admittedly, Callow Avenue has had better days, and although maybe
it's also had worse days, Josh.
Yep, and maybe its best days are ahead, right?
Best days are
ahead. So
from today forward.
That's right. And so let's first talk about. I think people just need to hear this. You have created a successful small business on Callow, and I would love just a little more about how you did that, and then how have you been able to grow in a place that has had its challenges?
Well, I think for me, I think it's specific to Corvo. I think it's been easier for me than it maybe would be for other businesses, other business concerns, other food and beverage type places. Coffee is a constant universal draw. And if you create a decent coffee place, people will come to it. Whether they love the neighborhood it's in, hate the neighborhood it's in, people, if you create a good coffee place, you're gonna get customers. I think it's a little bit harder for people who are trying to do retail in the neighborhood or different food options in the neighborhood. Some have come and gone, some have rebranded. So it's been a little easier for me, I think, than for other businesses. And for me, managing to do it means working 6 or 7 days a week for about 3.5 years. I did it with my ex-husband who helped me open the business, and then I did it solo for months and months and months. And you have to be willing to do the work. It's just work. It's just sheer manual labor. And just, crossing your fingers and hoping that things work out. So a lot of it is luck, and a lot of it is the support of the community. I mean, a coffee shop without customers is just an empty room with dipshits standing around. So just like any business, it's just an empty room. So it's the customers, the customer base, the people in the neighborhood, people from other neighborhoods as well, just came out and kept coming out to support. And that's what got us through COVID. And my goal with COVID was just to keep the lights on, just to keep the doors open, not shutter the business. Cross my fingers every day, work open to close by myself and hope for the best. And post-COVID, it's been just to slowly expand. And now I have a handful of employees, and the neighborhood is just still so full of love for us. It's just really great. Can't do anything without the support of the community.
Love it. And I know with Bill Mickelson, Bill Mann, people doing stuff, businesses, our small businesses, our coffee shops, our bars and saloons, our restaurants. These are incredibly competitive, incredibly tough business environments where people are virtually working nonstop. And I got to give you props there that it's really heartwarming to see that, because you're really creating the character, I think, that Bremerton is all about. I mean, you're creating that, and I wonder what will it take for us to do that more in Charleston and sell the viewers and those here on. I believe in it, but what are we going to do in Callow, and what is happening down there that you think is magical and that is continuing that growth trajectory?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. It's a combination of there are a handful of empty storefronts that have crazy reasonable rents, and I'm shocked that they're still available. I think it's a credit to the people who own the buildings, frankly, and I hate to shout out landlords, especially commercial landlords, but shout out to the commercial landlords on Callow for keeping their spaces reasonable, and some of them are fairly well maintained, and I think the physical nature, the actual literal layout of Callow and Charleston is fucking adorable. It's little 1- and 2-story places. It's a walkable street. The speed is low. It's got open windows, and it's a very sweet and could be really dynamic, like retail core. It doesn't have to be cutie patootie. It doesn't have to be sort of precious and spendy. It can maintain its flavor, especially because it's so affordable. But I would love to see every storefront on Callow full of food and booze and retail and clothing and secondhand and music stores. There's a lot of potential, and there's a lot currently happening. We just had a community organizing group, just took a space, just leased a space right around the corner from Corvo There's a used and new art supply shop that just opened last summer, a woman-owned business. There's Rimbert Illustration. Shout out to Danielle Rimbert, who is a tireless advocate for Callow and Charleston. There's the mainstays like Unique Experience Embroidery. The Flemisters are the king and queen of Callow. Faye Flemister is a goddess. I aspire to be her. She's everything to me. So there are a lot of women-owned businesses. Little Bee Home just opened. There's a carpenter shop across the street. There's Discordia. So Callow is really, we're so close. I mean, I think we're cool as is, but people always ask me this question, well, we'll make Callow cooler, so I have to have an answer. And the answer is fill all of the spots with cooler and cooler stuff.
That's cool.
And Slippery Pig is coming. They'll be on the same block as Corvo. They're doing their second location. TBD on their soft open. The owners were in the other day and we talked about it, so hopefully soon-ish, Slippery Pig's second location will be opening on Callow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
Yeah. I'm thrilled.
Yeah. Well, you touched on something earlier, and as a reporter, when I was at The Sun for years, I definitely got to know the fact that in Bremerton, there is an additional kind of special thing about our businesses, which is that many women feel comfortable opening businesses in Bremerton, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a bar, the one that we're sitting in right now. And I'm curious if there is something to that success and why Bremerton has that special claim to fame.
You know what? I don't know why specifically. I know that it is. I mean, you don't get anything extra. I don't get a tax break for being a lady business owner. They don't give me, a discount. I think it's maybe part of it is the support of the community and other small businesses. People, small businesses on the block and in the neighborhood embraced Corvo when we first opened, owned by men and women and everyone in between. So that may be part of it, is that there's a genuine sense of support. The small business community supports each other, even if it's just on social media, if that's all we can afford, if it's, promoting each other, whatever it is, loaning each other stuff, giving each other stuff, sending people to each other's businesses, referrals. It's super supportive, and I think maybe that is a more welcoming environment because women face so many issues in business as is. I don't know what it is, but we got a bunch of badass ladies over on Callow. We got a lot of women-owned business on Callow.
That's great. That's great. Well, I know every time I come into Cafe Corvo, I feel like I learned something. I feel like you impart some wisdom with me, including the latte that you make for me. So is there anything I didn't ask about that you would like to impart with us here tonight with me? I'm always happy to accept that.
This is too much pressure.
Too much pressure. Okay, well.
So I would just, I just would add that Corvo's mission statement, and this was important to me before I even opened, to have a mission statement for a fucking coffee shop. But I do, and it's that Corvo is anti-racist, anti-sexist, anti-bullshit, and 100% pro-joy. So that's it. And I think we could all benefit from those values.
Absolutely. No question about it. Can I get another round of applause for Miranda Pinero, everybody? This has been a really special episode of Local Legends. You will find this and all of the podcasts we've done at kitsapsmokestack.org. Always love to give it one more shout out to Bill Mann for making all of this possible.
Yay, Bill!
People doing stuff in Bremerton and Kitsap County, and he is covering it, and he's doing a great job at it. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll be back with Kitsap Quiz Night after this.